Hello fellow humans and welcome to rating every single tier-rate tech tree vehicle in the game. I've already done the premium tanks, I've done a video there a couple of months ago. And now let's have a look at the tech tree vehicles. There is quite a lot of them, so let's be quick because otherwise I don't want to waste your time too much. A T49, it's a meme tank, so I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Well, it's a 10 out of 10 for meme factor, but 5 out of 10 for active competitiveness because it's not really that good of a vehicle. T69, it's definitely better in terms of being competitive, but not by much, so I would give it a 6 out of 10. The penetration is absolutely abysmal, and the alpha damage 225 is a 3-shot autoloader. It's fine. However, overall, it is not an amazing vehicle. The massive problem that tier 8 has is that the heavy tanks are too good, and a lot of the medium tanks are absolutely garbage. That is something that needs to be rebalanced, but Wargaming doesn't care. Wargaming rather nerfs the tier 10 mediums a lot more to make the bots and their mouses a bit happier. Now, to make me happy, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, Pershing 6.5, maybe, something like that, just because it has 6,800 DPM. The average penetration is still horrible at 180, so yeah, that's not great. The armor is fine enough for going hull down on the turret, so that is very nice. The mobility is okay, so 6.5, maybe even a 7 for the Pershing, just because it doesn't suck as bad as some of the other tier-rate regular medium tanks. The M3 this is a 7, it's a solid vehicle, especially for an autoloader. The armor isn't really amazing, and the mobility is fine-ish, but overall, the gun does make up for it a bit. 310 alpha damage, 3-shot, that is relatively solid. Only has 2,000 DPM, so, you know, 6.5, 7 out of 10. Then, the T34 is a 8, because it is impenetrable, it is actually noob-proof, and that is very good. Now, also mind you that the premium tanks also have the factor of, can you buy it at a reasonable price? These don't have that problem. Now, this is very, very noob-proof and very beginner-friendly, I guess. If they would make the E5 viable again, then this will be an excellent beginner line. Unfortunately, they have decided to make the E5 absolutely utterly useless, so it kind of does lose a point there. So, the tank itself's an 8. I'll give it a 7 because the line is unfortunately not the correct one that it's in. So yeah, it would be better, but sad. Now, 2. Why? Because fuck it. T28, I think this one is a 3. With a slightly worse gun than a T28, so 300 DPM less. Solid penetration, obviously. 10 degrees of gun depression, that's solid. However, the mobility is absolutely non-existent, like the armor is as well. You're going to have some armor towards tier 3s, well, tier 7s, well, yeah, against tier 3s as well. But overall, it is not that good. Then the ITO1, 5 out of 10. Why? Because it's very difficult to play. It is a solid vehicle overall, however, it is insanely difficult to pull off, so it is not new player friendly at all. So you can absolutely forget having any of that. It is the fastest tank in terms of top speed in the game, so that is very nice. But overall, 5 out of 10 because it is very, very difficult to play. The Panther is an absolute turd, so 3 out of 10. It is very sad what Wargaming is doing to these tier 8 medium tanks, that it's completely neglecting them, but the Panther is just absolutely garbage. It does have solid stats, it seems like. The problem is the combination of all these stats just doesn't make it a good tank because it's not good at anything. It's not very fast, it's not very well armored, it doesn't really have any armor. It's absolutely massive. The gun's okay, but then again, it doesn't make up for the absolute horror that the rest of the vehicle is. Same with the Indian Panzer, really. It's just an overall bad vehicle. It is slightly better than the Panther, so I would give this one a 4 out of 10 and be done with it because, you know, it's bad, but you can get to the Leo, which is very nice. Then the Tiger 2. This is a very, very, very good vehicle, so 8 out of 10, I would say. I don't think we'll see a 9 or a 10 here. Because, you know, that's tier 8's balanced, you know, there's no need to go too high. So, this is a very good vehicle. It's too slow for my taste, I'm not personally a fan of it. However, obviously, it's just insanely good, essentially. Now, you need to angle the front plate quite a bit to get the full armor potential. However, the gun is very strong. You only have 7 degrees of gun depression, a lot of the others have 9 or 10. So, that is a downside there. That's why, again, it's not ever going any higher. However, it is a very solid vehicle and it's very noob-proof as well, so there is that. The VK100, it has very, very solid armor, but the gun sucks and the mobility absolutely sucks, so 5 out of 10 for this vehicle. Same with the VK. I did get buffed slightly, so 5 out of 10 for this one as well. The armor is still not amazing, and the mobility and all that is not great, but you could also give it a 6 if you're generous, but other than that, it's not really an amazing vehicle. And but it's fine if you want to grind towards the mouse. Then the Borsig, there's a problem with this tank. I'd give it a 7, and I'm going to give it a 7. Why? Because it's a good medium tank. That's why. It's a better medium tank than most tier 8 medium tanks. It only unfortunately has 8 degrees of gun depression, which is just horrible. The mobility is fine. It doesn't have any armor whatsoever, but the gun is pretty solid. This vehicle got nerfed like 5 times from Wargaming for some reason, so that is unfortunate. However, it is still a very solid vehicle, and given how horrible the tier 8 mediums are for the most part, this thing does fill the role quite nicely with its 640 alpha damage. Now, obviously, you need to be an insanely good player to actually pull this thing off properly, but it is definitely doable. Then the Yak Panther 2, which is fine for a tank destroyer. I mean, I'd give it a 7. It's just pretty much the best tier 8 non-premium tank destroyers that there is, essentially, in a way. 2000 DPM, 460 alpha damage. Very, very good mobility. Only 6 degrees of gun depression, unfortunately, but it is relatively mobile. It has some armor on the superstructure on top, where that plate is not armored at all. Ferdinand 2. It's slow. It has a worse gun than the Yak Tiger. The Yak Panther, rather. It has a worse gun. It's slower, and it has worse armor. That's all you need to know. Thieves for lightweight. I think 6 out of 10. This is one of the some more okay-ish medium vehicles. Only 5 degrees of gun depression. Absolutely horrible penetration on this vehicle, which is just the reason, you know, Wargaming doesn't want tier 8 medium tanks to be able to fight tier 8 heavies, because then all the noobs and the heavies are gonna cry, so they're gonna make the mediums too hard to play with giving them absolutely miserable penetration, and also a DPM that reduces itself below the value of the heavies once you have to fire premium rounds. So, yeah, congrats Wargaming. You don't know how to balance your own game, but anyway. 280 alpha damage, that's solid. And the top speed is 69, so that it gives an extra point there, which is nice. T-44, 5, maybe, 2000 DPM. Less than that on lightweight, the mobility is worse. It doesn't have any armor at all. At the front, at least, the turret's fine. It can be used pretty well, however, obviously, 7 degrees of gun depression is better. It's definitely better. It's sort of like the where it starts to be okay, but 8, 9, and 10, that's where you want to be, so I would give this 6.5, 7, maybe, something like that, just because it's relatively okay compared to the rest of the garbage that a lot of the tier 8s have to offer. IS-3, 4. Why? Because it's got power crept to absolute hell. 5 degrees of gun depression, relatively bad mobility, only 2000 DPM, and armor that is essentially non-existent on the front plate if you use any kind of premium round, and most tier 8s are going to go through with standard rounds anyway. Turret's obviously impenetrable, but you can't play the vehicle hull down. You can sidescrape it with it very well, so that is a bonus fact. But you can still be penned relatively easy through the side anyway. So, it got power crept. It's out of fashion. It's gone. KV5, well, KV4 rather, KV5. I've done the KV5 in my premium tank video, so check out that video if you want to. 4 as well, 2000 DPM. Armor is very solid. It has very, very strong armor, so you know what, let's give it a 5, because why not? 320 alpha damage, only 6 degrees of gun depression, absolutely abysmal mobility, which is just horrible. Obviously, the armor does add to its noob protection factor, but that's not too bad. SU-101, 3. No gun depression, no armor, well, no turret. And, well, the mobility is relatively solid, and the gun is pretty good. But then again, it is a tank destroyer, so, you know what that's mean. You know what that means. It's also not versatile at all. You have no gun depression, you have no turret, and there is no versatility in this vehicle whatsoever. The best option you have is pray that you can camp in a position somewhere on a hill and then make it work out, because the armor on this vehicle is non-existent as well. So that is unfortunate. ISU-152, I'd give it a... This is a tricky one. I'll give it a 6, because it has the BL-10. That's the only reason. Otherwise, the superstructure of this vehicle is essentially a 1. but the BL10 is a 10, so you gotta meet somewhere in the middle, I guess. And I do give the BL10 a bit more credit than, yeah, it gets. 286 standard penetration and 3000 DPM, 640 alpha damage. That's all you need, basically. Now, obviously, no gun depression, the mobility is pretty and the armor doesn't exist, except for the, well, the gun mantlet here, so that's something at least. But, yeah, it's definitely better than the SU-101, there's that. Now, FV-301. It's a nice little funny tank. 2600 DPM, only 190 alpha damage, which is horrible. However, I would still give it a 7. It is also very hard to play, but 10 degrees of gun depression, insanely good mobility. A gun that is keeping up, 2700 DPM is very, very solid. And you can't overlook the fact that it is going to be somewhat hard to play. Obviously, because here's the thing. Armor is the noob's skill. If you don't have skill, you need armor to make up for all the errors you're going to make, the overpeaks you're going to make, and the dumb positions you're going to get yourself into. The more armor you have, the more alive you will be. Now, the Centurion 1, it got buffed, 2500 DPM. Obviously, only 190 alpha damage still, unfortunately. So, again, 7 at best, because it just does lack some vital tools. If it were 225 alpha damage, it'd probably be an 8, but it ain't. Penetration is a lot better than that on a Pershing, for example, and the armor is solid on the turret, however, obviously non-existent on the front. So, 7 at best. Then, the Knaven, and this one is an 8. Maybe an 8.5 or a 9, because this vehicle has 3000 DPM with 225 alpha damage, and if you know the Knaven XX, which is kind of a donkey now, this vehicle got buffed quite a bit, and mobility is not great, but the average speed is 29, and that is solid enough. And the armor is also very, very strong. Now, the front plate obviously is quite weak. However, the turret is very strong. You can pen the cupola on top, but this casemate here is impenetrable towards any tier 7. Some tier 9s are obviously going to go poof straight through, but tier 8s are going to have a not great time, especially the medium tanks. So, let's leave it at 8.5 with this vehicle, because it is very strong and it got buffed. So that's nice. 3000 DPM. What I hit you like that? That's solid. Now, ET15. You got 3800 DPM, which 5, because it has no mobility. And it has very, very strong armor, but it has no mobility. So, why does this thing get a 5? Because it doesn't have any mobility, and it does not have a turret. And that is very important in a game called Blitz. You want to be able to move around fast and have all of that. And it is very, very easy for this vehicle to get circled. The worst thing you can do is sit in front of it. Obviously, some people will. But it doesn't have any redeeming factors in terms of moving it around quickly. So while it does have 10 degrees of gun depression and 3800 damage per minute, and also very, very solid armor, it is never going to go higher than a 5, simply because it does not have a turret and does not have any mobility. Then the Charioteer, 6.5, something like that, or 6 rather, where this vehicle is very solid, but it doesn't have armor. It does have 10 degrees of gun depression, which is lovely. It does have solid mobility, but it does not have any turret armor whatsoever. Then the STA-1, I'm sorry for that camo. A member told me to buy it, so I bought it. If you want to make me do dumb stuff, become a channel member. This is a 4. It's horrible. That's it. That's all you need to know. Cheese, the cheese. 7, 8, maybe an 8. I think this one definitely does qualify as an 8. It's somewhere in the region of an AMX M449 in terms of versatility. It does have very solid armor. It has 2,400 DPM, which is higher than the average of tier 8 heavies. Penetration is a bit but it's fine. And 310 average damage, so that combined with 9 degrees of gun depression and a okay-ish mobility, that is good enough. I think it does somewhat rate at an 8. Hori, I don't even know if I ever played this vehicle, so 4, 5, I don't know. It's a tank store, I don't care. It doesn't have that much armor from what I've played against it, and the mobility is fine. But again, no turret, and the armor is not great, so 4. T-34-2. Now, 2,100 DPM, 280 alpha damage, which you could also go for a 400 alpha damage gun here, but then you have even less DPM. So, you have two options. None of them are really amazing. Both of them have no gun depression at only 5, and only have horrible penetration at 181 and 240, and that's just horrible. So I think, while it's better than some of the other tier 8 turds like a Panther or an Indian Panda, it doesn't really go up that high. The armor is solid, the mobility is solid, however, the gun is not, and that is very, very unfortunate. 5.56, something like that. Then, the 110, give it a 6 as well. 6 degrees of gun depression, there you go, the mobility is okay-ish. Somewhere on the same level as the Carnarvon, but obviously it doesn't have nowhere near the DPM of it, or the gun depression. So, there is that. And the armor is good on the turret. You can still pen the cupolas on top, so that's something you have to watch out for. It's a pike nose, so flat on, it is the best armor, but you can still pen the absolutely massive lower plate that this vehicle does have. Then, the 111 1GFT. I don't know if I ever played this vehicle. No, I have not, so I don't care. AMX 3096. It's a light tank. It's very difficult to play. It's an autoloader on top of that as well. Only 6 degrees of gun depression, which is just bad. And overall, penetration is lacking as well. So, yeah, obviously no armor as well. So it has a mobility, it has an autoloader, but that's about all it does have. Then the AMX 5100, which, again, only 6 degrees of gun depression, but I will give this a 7 because it's a very solid autoloading vehicle. The armor is okay-ish enough. As long as you know how to play this vehicle, it is very good. Way better than the 5120, that's for sure. It is a solid vehicle, however, it's not amazing by any means. So, AMX AC, the air conditioner. Well, 2.3k DPM, that's definitely a lot lower than that of an AT-15, which is not great for a tank destroyer like this that is already limited by not having a turret and having solid front armor, but being able to be pinned by pretty much any tier 8 premium round. The gun arcs aren't really that great either. The mobility is fine, but 5 out of 10. Pantera, 7, because this is one of the few tier 8 mediums that doesn't suck. This and the Pershing, and maybe this Insurin, but we're getting into a problem then. Now, auto reloader helps this vehicle a lot because you can choose, do you do one shot, do you do multi-shot? So that is very useful. The penetration is not great at 203, it's the same as the Panther. The armor is also the same as the Panther, but the thing is, the difference between this and the Panther is that this one actually has a gun that can make up for its absolutely abysmal rest of the vehicle. It's also a bit faster, so that is not too bad, and you can use that to your advantage. TVP VTU. I don't really have that much experience with the vehicle. 310 alpha damage is nice to have on a medium tank like this. 6 degrees is not, so overall 6 out of 10 for this one as well, because 6 is like, it's fine, but it's not great, and that's what a lot of vehicles are in the game. You know, a lot of vehicles fall in that category of they're fine, but they're not amazing. So, yeah, mobility is solid as well, and the armor is okay-ish. Don't expect much from it, but it's fine. Then the 53 TP, that is a 9 out of 10. Bang, smack, best tier 8 in that regard in terms of tech tree. And, yeah, 8 degrees of gun depression, very good mobility, solid gun with 420 alpha damage. Obviously, the DPM is lacking, but you can't be great everywhere. And the armor is very, very solid. The front plate is, well, this middle plate sort of is quite vulnerable, but it's very small. The turret's impenetrable, and that with 8 degrees of gun depression, which none of the other Russian-style vehicles do have, does make this thing probably the best out of the whole pack. So 9 out of 10 for the 53 TP, and the ML1 is somewhere in the same boat. 8.8, 8.8, 8.9. It's not quite on the same level, I'd say, but it is very, very strong. Obviously, the turret's pretty much impenetrable if you go in a hold down position. 2000 DPM, you get a 3-shot autoloader with 220 alpha damage, so you can yeet out a lot of damage. DPM's not great, however, 10 degrees of gun depression, and you do have very good mobility, and you also have the improved engine boost, which is very nice. So, yeah, that's the rating. What would you rate differently? What would you differently? What would you do the same? Put it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.